Hello guys, welcome back to Gcses. Emily here, and today I am going to be telling you 10 things I wish I knew before I sat my GCSE exams this time last year. So, as you may be aware, or if you're doing GCSEs and A-levels this year, GCSEs start this week, and as far as I'm aware, A-levels start next week. But this video is going to be roughly 10 things I knew before I sat my GCSEs last year. For those of you who may be interested, my first exam last year was biology on the 15th of May, and my last one was German writing on the 23rd of June last year, 2018. And these are the things I wish I knew. So number one would be don't listen to others. I'm going to merge these two together. So 1 and 2 is don't listen to others, and no matter how hard it is, try not to talk about the exam when you've came out. Main reason for this is because everyone is going to be having different answers. There might be different papers, so higher and lower, going on. Science might be triple and combined. So everyone's going to have a different answer, and everyone is going to be, depending on what ability level you are or what set you're in, everyone's going to be taught a different way of answering the questions. So someone who is aiming for a 8 or 9 will be taught how to get their marks to get that grade, whereas for me personally, I got taught how to get a grade 4 or 5, which is a C, and so I got taught differently to the higher ability kids. As well, I just find this is it causes a lot more, it's a lot less stressful for you when you don't talk about the exam as much, because you're like, right, done the exam, not going to talk about it because it might cause me more stress, done it, move on to the next one. So that is number 1 and 2 on the list. Okay, so number 3 is try and talk and distract yourself before the exam. So completely opposite to what I've just said about after the exam, but before the exam, try and talk to people and just find a way of distracting yourself before you go into the exam hall, because I found that this was the easiest way of taking my mind off of it for all of, like, even if it's for 5 minutes, it was the easiest way of focusing on something else before you go in and sit the exam, however long it is. So what I did was, because for my exams, I wasn't in the main hall, because I had exam arrangements. So I was in a separate room with about 15 to 20 other kids. And so my best way I found of distracting myself was to actually, I didn't do this annoyingly until quite late on in the exam season. I got one of my old school shirts, and I know a lot of other people eventually went and done this. I went round before the exam, but making sure I was not late for the exam. That was one thing I did do. And got people to sign good luck messages or just their names on my leavers shirt. And that I found was a really good way of distracting myself, because it was something I actually enjoyed doing, and it just kind of like relaxed me a bit before I went in. And like, even if I had, because I did suffer with quite bad anxiety during the exam season last year, it's the first time I've experienced what a panic attack is. But that's for another video if I ever decide to make one on that. No matter if I had really bad anxiety throughout the whole exam, I thought even if I thought the exam went awful, at least I knew before the exam I was doing something to relax myself. So always try and distract yourself before the exam. Okay, next on my list is do not cram information the night before an exam. I found that this does not work. I did this for my mocks in December 2 years ago, and it did not work. Mainly because I forgot about mocks in December 2 years ago, in 2017. Completely forgot about it. Had to cram very last minute for a couple of the exams that I forgot I was sitting. Yeah, not the best thing, and it did not work for the majority of the time because I was stressed, panicky, did not cope in the exam hall because that was before my exam aids, whatever you call them, came into place. So I was in the main hall with all my year group, and even though my year group was very small compared to the other year groups in the school, I did not cope well, and I subsequently did not do great in them, and I have put that down to cramming information and also cramming too much information onto my revision notes I had made up until that point, because that I put too much on one thing and then found that I just could not, it was information overload. So I then ended up having to redo all my revision notes in the Christmas break and then relearn everything ready for my mocks in March and then my actual exams in May. So yeah, cramming does not work no matter how hard you try. My next point kind of follows on to what I've just said, and that is, do not revise for an exam you have the next day. Revise for one you have the following week. This I found for me personally worked really well. Again, I left it quite late, didn't do it until about June, so I'd already sat about half my exams by that point. But I found sitting the exams I had that day, going home, have half an hour to myself, then sit down and revise, say if I had maths, I would go home and say if I had then English literature the next day, I would not go home and revise English literature. I would go home and revise, say, German or hospitality and catering or my last physics paper. Whatever I had that following week, that was what I would revise. And I then planned my time based on the exams I had that week, because I also had revision lessons I would go in for because I was on study leave from about June till the end. So start of June to June 23rd I had study leave. So I only went into school for revision sessions and the exams. So then I would plan my time around the revision sessions and around the exams for that following week. So I have somewhere around here I have my exam timetable of when all my exams were, so I'd be able to tell you, but I can't find it. So I'm doing it from memory. But that is kind of how I did it. So do the exams one week, but all through that 1 week I'm revising for the next week exams, and that I find is the best way for me personally and the least stressful way I found it. So at the moment, as I might have said in the previous video, I'm retaking my English language GCSE in June. At the moment I'm revising little and often when I can, really, because a lot of it is just a refresher. So I'm doing my bulk of revision at the moment for paper 1, and then I will then be integrating paper 2 into that as well, and then doing both side by side and seeing how that works for me this year. My next point is, again, one I think is very important, and that is to have in your mind that it is okay to have days off of revision completely and days where you go out with your family. Whatever you do, do not become like a revision hermit, or like think that you are like, right, for 2 months straight I am in GCSE mode or A-level mode or whatever, and all my whole time has to be my head in the book. Because looking back on it now, again, this is something I did. I did not give myself time to myself, really, and I felt guilty when I did, and that is another important point. Do not feel guilty when you have days out with your family. Build your revision around your life, not your life around the revision and the exams. I did it so I would have, on a weekend especially, I'd revise in the morning, so I'd do, say, 9 till 12 of revision with breaks in between. Then I'd have the afternoon to myself, and then I'll go back to it potentially in the evening. That's how I kind of did it, so I had time for myself. I also then went that was quite towards the start of my exams. I think that was the 29th of May or something around that time. The band musical came to my local theatre, so me, my dad and my sister went to go and see that, and I felt so guilty throughout the whole thing because I wasn't revising. Looking back on it now, I'm so glad I went because it gave me the time off from revision and from textbooks that I needed. So don't feel guilty if you have a day out with your family or you don't revise one day, because you probably need that break and you don't realise you need it. My next point is probably the most important one on the whole list, and that is to make self-care a top priority. You have no idea sometimes about how much you may be revising and not realising that you've let yourself go a bit. It's the nicest way I can put it. Making sure that you just take care of yourself, you take care of your skin, and like treat yourself is just, it's, you don't realise until after exams that it's such a priority, because obviously Gcses especially are going to be one of the most stressful times of your life, if not the most stressful. It's when you have up to potentially 24-ish exams in a 2-month time period, give or take. I say 2 months, it's about 6 weeks, but it's a lot of exams to cram into a very short amount of time, and you have no idea until afterwards how you've not either looked after your physical health. You may have definitely, for me personally, I definitely did not look after my mental health at all, and I essentially thought then when I went into college, I paid for it because I was so I then just went into college and just worked. Like I did for 6 weeks of my exams, and I basically I was exhausted by Christmas last year, and I'm now only just getting into a routine of how I know I'm comfortable working. So just make self-care one of your top priorities and just look after yourself during exam periods. My next point again kind of links into the self-care thing, but that is drink plenty and eat the right amount of food. My school were actually pretty good. They gave us, if we forgot, a bottle of water to go into the exams with, and they provided us with one. They also provided us with flapjacks if you got one, though. It was lucky if you got one, because they kind of went down very well and they went very quick. But keeping yourself hydrated and energised is, again, one of the most important things, because your concentration will be better. Sorry about that, my granddad was just leaving. Just keep yourself hydrated and energised, because ultimately you'll feel better about it, and you just work better. Personally, I just worked better when I knew I'd eaten something in the morning, I was hydrated throughout the day, and I just knew I had something that I had energy in me to do the amount of exams I had that day. I will also point out, I don't think I've drank as much water in my life I don't think I've ever drank as much water as what I did during the exam periods. And now I used to hate water before exam periods. I just could not drink it. I just thought it was pointless, but now I drink so much of it a day, which is obviously not a bad thing, but I just drink so much now. And I found that because I drank so much during the exam season, I've now been left better off because of it. So that is one con of exam season. My next point is one after you've done your exams. So what I did is I had exam revision notes all the way around my room. So I had some on my door behind me, I had some up there on my pictures on my, like, the picture frames, I had them everywhere. But what I found most helpful is when I got home and I'd done that exam that day, and if I had notes up for that exam, I would take them down immediately and put them in a bag, because then those notes I would then burn at the end of the year. Unless they were maths or English notes, they went into a separate bag because they were not burnt, because I kept them just in case, which I'm so glad I now did keep them, because they've become useful this year, and they will be next year as well. But I just found it so satisfying to take them down once those exams were done. As well, it avoids you getting even more stressed out, because if you've done the exam, you come home in a couple of days' time and you still find notes up there, and if there's a question and you've done a revision note or a revision poster for it and it was there, and you then start doubting yourself on whether you've got that question right or wrong, and that is something you just don't want to do. You don't want to spend your time doubting your own ability and doubting what you've put in your exam paper, because you can't change it, so there's no point worrying about it. And my 10th and final point is exam results are not the end of the world, and they do not mean the end of your life. I am definitely guilty of this one, because especially, I'm going to take my maths paper 2 as an example. That paper for me did not go well at all. It's probably one of the reasons I failed maths last year. I had a massive panic attack at the end of it. I then ended up sitting in my maths teacher's room for about 2 hours trying to calm myself down. And I literally thought the world was going to crumble around me, and I just wanted to be swallowed up by, like, whatever. Results, they came, and I didn't get the results I wanted, full stop, and I genuinely thought it was the end of the world. I did not get into sixth form, and I didn't get into my second choice of college, which was rugby, because of my grades. So I ended up being at the college where I am now, and to be honest, I got told this last year as well, that exams didn't mean everything, but I kind of ignored that and thought they were. And now thinking back, they're really not. Like, unless for me now, I'm in college and my exam grades do matter on what course and what I do next year. It really does not matter. Your GCSE results are essentially to get you up to that next step of whether that be sixth form, college, apprenticeship, or full-time employment. That is essentially all your GCSE grades depend on. For me personally, at the moment, that's how I see it. No doubt, maybe in 2-3 years' time, my point again on this will change. But at the moment, just understand that no matter what happens, exams are not the be-all and end-all, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You might just have to work a little harder or do another level course at college or whatever to get to your end career goal. And university, if that is where you want to head, is always there. No matter what option you choose, university will always be an end goal. Personally for me, uni is not where I want to go. At the moment, I want to finish up my courses at college, get my grades and my my degrees, my levels, and then go into employment, doing what I've now fallen in love with. I will always look back on last year as a learning curve for me. I learned a lot about myself, a lot about what not to do during exams, and I just hope in some way this video has helped. If you're sitting exams this year, good luck. Don't panic, as I know that's like harder, that it's harder said than done, or whatever they say. But just keep calm, relax, and at the end of it, you have probably one of the longest summers you're ever going to get in your life. So enjoy it. And if your school has a prom, enjoy prom. It's up there with one of the best nights of my life. And when it comes to 12 months since my prom, I will be making a video on that, explaining what my prom was like, because it's one of them nights where if I could go back to it, I would in a heartbeat, because there's people who I went to prom with who I have not seen, or I just haven't seen them since prom. And when people say, oh yeah, prom might be the last time you see these people, they seriously mean it, because on results day, for me personally, I was in floods of tears because I did not get what I want, and I ignored everyone. I did not care. People coming up to me, I ignored everyone, and I then regretted it when I got home, because I thought, I'm not going to see the people in that room that I saw today again, potentially, and I blew it. Like, I literally have blown my last chance of seeing them. So enjoy prom as much as you can, and just put the hard work and dedication into your exams now, because it will all pay off when results day rolls around. So I hope this has helped in some way, and you have enjoyed this video, and I will, me or Hannah will see you again with another one soon. Bye!